Hi, thanks for watching. My name is Charlie Ramirez, and I created a website called Sweet Adeline. You can visit it at sweetadeline.net. Um, I put the site together with many fans of Elliott Smith, and I'm here to talk about one of my favorite albums of all time from Elliott. Uh, it's called From a Basement on the Hill, and you can buy this album on LP, CD, digital, local at your local store or online. And the reason I'm here talking about it is for Eddie's 24-hour Sweet Addy radio show that I think is going to be broadcast on the 21st, the anniversary of Elliott's passing, and it's an honor to be a part of it, and hopefully I might give a little insight about it. The interesting about From a Basement on the Hill is, for me, was that the process of making this album seemed like kind of started from when I started following Elliott, and that's why it's kind of really important to me, because a lot of songs from this record are older songs, and there's newer songs, and over the years, and I started the site in 1998. I kind of followed Elliott's career, and Figure Eight and the songs that came from this album, From a Basement on the Hill, were kind of like the time period that I was around, where I was involved as a fan, and so those albums are really important. Before From a Basement on the Hill, I really loved Either Or. But it seems like this album was more personal, because just something I followed since being involved creating the site and interacting with fans and seeing Elliott play shows and all that stuff. So let's kind of get started. Like I said, I started the site in '98. A lot of this, as I learned a lot about Elliott, I would research his older stuff as well, and some of the songs that are on this album actually show up more recent when Elliott was either touring or recording, and so it had a good mixture of old and new. One of the things about Sweet Adeline is that the reason why I even got the name is what I felt like there was a big transition between Either Or and EXO, and especially with Sweet Adeline, it kind of felt like a bridge. And with this album, From a Basement on the Hill, I felt like it was kind of a new road that Elliott was taking, but not going so far, where he was losing touch with what a lot of fans, came to love about him and his music and stuff. So my experience with From a Basement on the Hill kind of started closer to 1999-2000, when Elliott was on tour for Figure Eight. And actually, a fan spoke to him backstage after a show, and it was after, of course, he recorded Figure Eight, and there were some concerns about direction and where to go next with his music, and that was expressed to her, and she emailed me and let me know about it, kind of thing. So I kind of give it an inkling that there was Elliott was not sure what direction he was going to go, and happens that maybe a few months later or a year after that email, I actually got an email from Elliott's girlfriend at the time, Valerie, and through Elliott, they were asking about some songs that were basically live unreleased songs on the site, and that had been collected by many fans who recorded his work, and and I was lucky enough to kind of put it on the site to help, just have other fans be aware of of other songs that existed but weren't recorded. And so from that, Elliott saw some songs that he might have hadn't revisited in a long time, and he kind of asked, or he did ask us as fans to collect some of the music that was unreleased or on the page that to send him, just so he can hear it. And at the time we didn't know what was going to come of it. So my friend Chris and Ray and I collected some songs to send to Elliott, and you might be able to find a little information about it directly from Elliott about these songs in the Under the Radar interview he did, which ended up being his last interview, really. So it kind of tells that story. And as time went on, sadly things kind of went awry with, Elliott admitted himself that he was having issues with drugs, and at a certain point, which was about 2001 or 2001, some things started to emerge. Some Elliott, not being in the best of shape, played some shows, but some of the songs that came from the site, from the site and from other fans that had been collected together to give to Elliott, started appearing on certain shows. And off the top of my head, songs that actually made it from A Basement on the Hill were Shooting Star, King's Crossing, A Passing Feeling, Memory Lane. So some of the songs started showing up on the shows that Elliott had been playing, or there was some inklings of him starting to play a song and then it just not working out at the time, and so we got kind of a roadmap that Elliott was kind of going back a little bit and revisiting some stuff he worked, but it never came to life on albums, and maybe just kind of fell off the map considering that they weren't being played at shows anymore or that kind of stuff. And so of course as time went on, we thankfully we got some more information about how Elliott was doing, and got really involved with concentrating on recording. And eventually, the first sign of a new Elliott recording came out on this 7-inch record that was released by Suicide Squeeze. And the song is called Pretty Ugly Before, and great single to pick up if you don't have it. That song basically was played on tour. It was a new song, and the B-side to that is called Distorted Reality is Now a Necessity to Be Free. Excuse me if I screw up, I'm a little nervous. So anyways, that song would later be sung later in the year, around 2003, and so that was the first kind of really solid release by Elliott in years, and that came out in 2003. And of course, unfortunately, the single release came out a few months before Elliott passed, and we were kind of left with not sure what was going to happen, because there had been inklings of the album being a double album, kind of like a 2-disc album, something like a White Album or a physical graffiti kind of release, and that was never solid because DreamWorks had to kind of prove that. That's what Elliott wanted, in a sense that's what he was gonna go for, but legal wise, I don't know if he would have been able to do it anyways. So anyways, I quickly want to talk about the album. The first one's Coast to Coast, off this album. It was, I remember when I first heard it, it was just very, to me it was different from what we had heard before. A lot more experimental and a lot of background sounds and atmosphere, environment. Hearing some of Elliott's unreleased stuff. There's a couple of things that are just kind of just sounds, and some of that kind of makes it into the song, and really, kind of showed what direction he was going. Of course, this album was released after Elliott passed away, so he didn't really get to do the order or the mixing or all the general production. But aside from doing what he did, and then Rob and Joanna cleaning it up, and organizing it with the family and stuff, so, which in my opinion is completely brilliant, and props to all of them. And then Let's Get Lost was a great song, that definitely had its connection to the past, being acoustic, and really nice song. I love that song. We talked about Pretty Ugly before. Don't Go Down originally it was really cool to hear this version after hearing the live version of this, because the only live music that Elliott did for the most part was acoustic songs, not any really electric. He did one show where he played electric before he passed away. The set list is passing me right now, but I know this one was a strictly acoustic song from our standpoint as fans, and to hear it so rocking was amazing. Strung Out Again, same kind of thing. That was another song that Elliott played as an acoustic song, and for the limited time that Elliott played live, playing these newer songs. Also awesome, rockin'. I've actually heard another version of the song that's just amazing. Fond Farewell had been played a few times acoustically, even back to year 2000, and I remember hearing that song for the first time at Bumper Shoot. The song was some considered it lost, actually, and Elliott found it in the back of Jennifer Chiba's car. I guess he gave her a copy of it, and then somehow he lost it, and it just ended up being in the back of, I guess, her car, and they found it for the album. So it made the list. King's Crossing, older song. This was kind of one of the songs that was older, that was on the site, and he asked about. So obviously as fans, we're so happy to see some of these songs be released on an album, and hopefully in some little way we were involved, and it was good because some of the songs showed up. Twilight also was a song that Elliott had played live. I think Passing Feeling as well. Rockin'. It's a rockin'. I love that song. Sorry. Sorry, I'm almost running out of time, so kind of got pressure on me now. I love The Last Hour. It's a beautiful song. Probably definitely one of the top 2 favorite songs off the album. Which leads me to Shooting Star, which, if I had one thing to change, it's probably that, because originally that song, I think it was as far as I remember, it came out. I mean, he played it live in '98, and I think that was the first time I heard it. And Elliott had recorded two versions of this song that are known. One's an acoustic version, of course, and one is a completely different, loud, more experimental version. And but the loud experimental version made it to this album, and hopefully, anybody out there is listening at Interscope. Here's my little spiel. I hope you guys really consider releasing stuff that is not released and needs to be heard. So that's my little spiel. Memory Lane, also an older song that made it to the album. Trying to think, Little One. Top of my head, I'm not sure. Don't remember that as much history-wise. It's been a while. And the last song on the album, which I really thought was an awesome song to close out, the single version was very, very cool, very George Harrison to me. But to hear this other version was kind of great way to close out. We've heard other things, New Moon and an Introduction to Elliott Smith, have come out since this album, but considering where Elliott was at, and considering that this was really what he was working on before he passed, this song really was a great closer for this album, and it was a great choice to end the album with. This album was released by Anti. It's now distributed by Kill Rock Stars, which is an awesome label, and so is Anti. And let's see what else. What else can I say about this? I just really love the connection to Elliott's past work and Elliott's future. What could have been Elliott's future work. It was definitely a change in direction, especially after hearing from my friend a long time ago about where Elliott was, and not being sure which direction to take. And from that point to this album, is just an amazing thing, and props to everybody who was actually involved with the album. I know John Bryan was involved, and David McConnell and Fritz, and all Elliott's family and friends who of course were involved. So yeah, I just really loved how much of how experimental it was, for Elliott, and how close to what we know, what at the time we knew of Elliott's music, and how it bridged those two things, those two worlds and new worlds together. Where how I felt when Sweet Adeline, the song, came out, and I put that record on for the first time after hearing Either Or and the self-titled and Roman Candle and all those other albums, other singles, and then hearing something new from Elliott. This was definitely one of those things, and now it's my favorite album. And so thanks to everyone who was involved with this album. I mean, it was fans and family and friends and people who loved Elliott, and it seemed like a good combination to help Elliott close whatever chapter this album is to people. So anyways, thank you so much for listening, and I hope it wasn't too weird. Anyways, and the shirt, I can't. No, this way. Okay, this way. is from a Sweet Addie fan, Jennifer, and I just want to say thank you. Um, I don't know if she ever thought that I'd be wearing it, and here's proof of me wearing something that a fan was sweet enough to give me. Anyway, so thank you. So thanks to all the fans, thanks to Eddie, and take care.